So first, I want to talk to you about appraisal versus assessed value. When you look at sites like, that might begin with a Z or begin with an R, some of those sites will list their assessed value or their appraisal value. And that value may be correct or incorrect depending on a whole multitude of situations. So for your appraisal, this is actually a formal process, and some mortgage lenders are actually going to require you to do it. It isn't required just to buy a home, period. Like if you're paying cash, you're not required to get an appraisal. But if you are most type of financing, whether it be a conventional loan or a FHA or like a VA loan, something like that, most of those are going to require some form of a formal appraisal. And if you are doing financing for the home buying process, you're going to want to make sure that you reach out to your lender to find out what, if anything, needs to be done in order to get you to close that much quicker, because you don't want to find out about that after the fact. In addition to that, you're going to need to know about your closing costs. And your closing costs are any cash that needs to be brought to the table in order to complete the transaction. So these are going to be any fees, whether that be towards the mortgage broker, towards your real estate professionals, or any taxes or points on your mortgage. If you're using any other type of loan other than something that where you're putting 20% down on, usually you're going to have to do something called PMI. And that's basically an insurance on a down payment for the home that you're buying. And we can talk about that another time because that's a whole other complicated topic. But you're going to want to make sure you know what your closing costs are and that you are able to actually bring those to the table when it's time to sign on the dotted line. Your lender should be talking to you about what's needed with that as well. And it's usually spelled out pretty clearly in your closing documents. Another important term is your credit score. So it's this 3-digit number that gives people a lot of anxiety sometimes, because some people have some pretty good credit and some people have been working to build it back up. But it's something that gets brought down pretty easily and takes just as long to bring it back up, unfortunately. So your credit score is a number anywhere between 300 and 850. And you're going to need to pay attention to your payment histories, to your on-time performance when it comes to making these payments, to make sure that anything you do isn't impacting your credit score negatively prior to going into the home buying process. And the other good thing is you can go on to most websites when it comes to figuring out your credit, like creditkarma.com or any of those websites, and they should be able to give you a pretty accurate credit score. Your lender is going to pull it again when push comes to shove and when it's time to actually execute the loan. But for your purposes, knowing what you're going to be getting into in the beginning, it's definitely very useful to even do a soft check prior to getting into the home buying process.